Good evening, my children. It is I, Dr. Jimmy again. Welcome you to another wonderful cocktail hour video for Halloween Horror Nights 28. That's right, this time I'll make the cocktail for the horrors of Blumhouse. And let me show off today's t-shirt of the day. Oh, it's Tales from the Crypt. Yes. It's been a while since we've seen the Crypt Keeper at Horror Nights. I guess he was there as recently as 2015, but he really had his big impact back around 1995 and 96. And then over at Hollywood in 98? I think it was, yes. People forget he was the first ever icon in Hollywood as well as Orlando. They didn't do a lot of icon stuff in Hollywood, just a little bit when they first re-upped it in 2006. And they had Jack one year and the director another year, and they pretty much decided to drop it. I guess it was the director and then Jack. They dropped the icon thing after that there, although it seems like they've dropped it here, unfortunately, as well. Maybe we'll get some icons someday, but the great place for icons is Singapore now. But this is nothing about any of that. This is about Blumhouse. Yes, good old Blumhouse. And we're making a Horror Blumhouse cocktail for this year's Horror Blumhouse, which features the first Purge as well as Happy Death Day. So, what did I need to do to make this cocktail? Well, I'd make a cocktail that had elements that reminded me of both of these storylines, even though I haven't seen the first Purge yet. Nevertheless, a good purgative, sort of, not exactly, but it tastes like it might be a purgative. Not really, but still, I felt would be appropriate, and that's Jägermeister. Jägermeister, which has the label, oh dear, yes, it's oh dear, yes. No, it has nothing to do with the purging, except in recent Purge movies like Purge Election Year, there were some Nazis with like insignia that were German and had things. I don't think that quite fits with that. But Jägermeister also means master hunter in German. And it is about almost a lot of these Purge movies. There are people hunting people. And that's part of what it's about. So I think it's appropriate. And that's the more purgy part, and then the Happy Death Day part. Well, I knew what would have to be, because, well, I have a bottle of Pinnacle vodka, which are flavored vodkas, and this one's flavored to birthday cake. Yes, so there we go, just like the little cupcake. It'd been better at Red Velvet, but I couldn't find one specific to Red Velvet at the liquor store. They might have some somewhere. Very easily might have some, but I thought I'm not going to go that far. Cake is enough. So I've got the cake vodka, and I've got this, and that's what I use for my cocktail, which I'm going to do up in a martini glass. And here comes Lenny. Hello, Lenny. She just climbed up there. There's a lovely cat. Nice kitty. It's not supposed to be drinking, Lenny. Anyway, yeah. So that's going to be my Blumhouse cocktail. So we start with the vodka. There we go. Get a lovely bottle. Yeah, it is again. It's actually from France, or at least the vodka's from France. I don't know if they flavour it here. Pinnacle, and we put some into this jigger, and it certainly smells like cake. It does indeed. We pour this cakey vodka into there, and then we put the lid on the bottle in case of spillage. So the other item would be the Jägermeister. Oh my goodness, I didn't realise how little I had left. There's some in there, but not much. It's a good thing. That should be just about enough. Just about enough for the cocktail. So I pour all the what's left of the Jägermeister into the cocktail there. I hope it's enough, because I didn't realize if I did, I would have bought another bottle of Jägermeister today. The same time I bought the vodka. I hope this works out. All right. Otherwise, I'll throw this video away and go back to the liquor store tomorrow and get some more Jaeger, and then come back and do it over again. And you'll never see this. We'll see if it works. I hope it does. Shake up the cocktail. Now that it's shooken, we pour it in. Oh, it came out a lovely colour. I guess there was enough Jaeger after all. And I guess a little goes a long way. It does have a strong flavour. We don't want too much of that. Just enough. Just enough to make you go purge yourself after you've drunk it. No, kidding. And it should be a lovely, then, like at a party where they're having cake and doing Jaeger shots. Oh my, if you did that, you would have to go somewhere afterwards. But we'll see. So let's give it a try. I think it might be blumderful. Oh, that's actually pretty good. It is. It is. Just enough Jägermeister so that the cake vodka isn't too cloyingly sweet, and the cake vodka takes the bitterage off the Jägermeister, so it works together quite well. That's quite nice. Yes. So here we are, Horrors of Blumhouse, 2018 version cocktail for the first Purge and Happy Death Day. Actually, I was thinking of Happy Death Day. You drink a cocktail, and then you drink another one, and then you drink it again, because you keep drinking it over and over because of the Groundhog Day thing. Do want to say a few words about Jason Blum, who's the man who makes the movies. He's not the director, he's not the filmmaker in the sense of, the writer-director. He's sort of like the producer, but he selects projects that he believes in, and he gets them made. And he's sort of like a new latter-day Roger Corman, although Corman directed, but he doesn't really like doing that part of it, but he likes getting the projects off the ground, getting them going, paying for them, and selecting them. And he's rather a cool guy. He rides around Hollywood in a mobile office. It's a van, and it's all decked out with his office, and he doesn't really have a one building. There probably is somewhere, but this way he can just be on the go all the time and do his work in this van. And he is able to get really good actors. Some of them take, millions of dollars in their contracts, to put that aside and work for scale, which is quite impressive. And well, they agree that they might take a percentage, and if it's a big hit, that might be a lot of money. But otherwise, they just get paid for scale, which is actually quite a bit of money for you and I. But for a Hollywood actor, very often it doesn't seem like much to them. You have to understand, a lot of people in Hollywood, they may get a lot of money for a few days' work, but you must comprehend, the average actor, not the big star, the average actor doesn't work every day. And sometimes there may be long periods of time between jobs. So back when I did acting in the 1980s, 30 years ago, and I appeared on a telly program that was shot in Hawaii called Tour of Duty, where it played a soldier named Mickey, got shot and killed. I worked on that program for about a week or so, just about a week. That's when I met Batman. In fact, I showed a trailer with Batman. Didn't know he was Batman yet. He didn't become Batman until quite a bit later. At the time, though, he was playing the captain in the program. His name is Kevin Conroy. He's the voice Batman from the animated series. I saw what he looks like nowadays, and I thought, oh my God! But then I thought, dude, it's 30 years ago. Of course he's got to look older. Look at yourself in the mirror, then look at yourself as you were back then. You put on a few pounds. He looks like he lost as much weight as I gained, though. Huh. But since he's a gay man, I'm glad he survived those 80s. I survived. I managed to get out of it pretty good, but a lot of people didn't get out very well, and their health was damaged, or, because that was a time we didn't know about things that were out and about. And, in the 90s we did a lot and fought it off and found the way to fight them. But talking about AIDS, really. But back then in the 80s, lots of people died because we didn't know what the hell was going on yet. I don't know if that was his case, but damn, he looks quite different than he did back in the 80s when he played on Tour of Duty. And I shared the trailer with him for a week. But I got, the point of the story is I got paid something like $5,000 for 1 week's work. It's like, God damn, that's a lot of money, Jimmy. Well, that includes the initial and then getting paid almost the same amount. So it was like $2,000 and then get, or $2,500. I forget exactly what it was. But after, there was the residual for the second time it got shown on telly. Every time it got shown on telly, the original showing, and then again in the summer repeat that same first season, that episode that I was on, I got another big check, and then I got more checks when it showed again, and then when they had the home video, I got another check. So add it all up. But it still was within 1 year I got enough checks to be up to about $5,000. And I made a little bit more after that, but not too much. And every once in a while I get like a couple of bucks, just because if it shows somewhere, if they bring it back on some television program or on some network that requires residual payments, I might get like $2 or $3, or something out of it. But again, that's a lot of money to make within a very short period of time for 5 days' work, except I didn't do much acting after that, and a lot of actors in my position might have gone months, even years, before they got their next gig and have to work as a waiter or whatever in between times. Because that's the case of the average actor. The ones that do really well and then they get contracts and agents and they make tons of money, well, even they don't make a lot of money. It's the big name stars that make the big contracts. But, so even though scale may sound nice on paper, when you see how much it is per hour, when you find out really it's not that much. So he gets these actors, big actors too, good ones that have been nominated for Academy Awards and shit, to put that aside and simply take scale. And it brings the budget way down. And it gets the budget down to a very low amount, and they make the movie, and it looks really good, very well done, and then very often they're huge hits, and that means everybody makes money. And he can pick these very well. Of course, he really has a certain left-of-center political view. You should read his tweets about a certain president of ours, and he takes no prisoners, and I say, right on, fight the man, Jason. And but I love his picking the Purge franchise and Get Out and Sharp Objects, so many others of projects. I mean, you can see where he's coming from, and I agree with it. So I really like what he's been doing. And a lot of it's really fucking entertaining as well. I liked every Blumhouse thing I've seen, pretty much. I haven't seen all of them, though, and there's some that might be a bit crap, but I've liked everything I've seen that's got. When that little Blumhouse logo goes by, with that creepy little girl and that mirror and that book floating around and that chair and the, what's that chair doing up there? Who'd sit on that? When I see that Blumhouse logo, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good one. And I really dig it. And it's great to see that he loves horror and has a whole film company that's primarily horror. There's only been a few little projects once in a while that's not horror that he believes in, like that Black Klansman or Black KK Klansman, KKK in the middle, which was a Spike Lee joint, which is a true story about an African-American cop, except back in the 70s they were black. They didn't call them African-American until a bit later. But this, you know it's the 70s because they're people with big fucked up afros and funk music on the soundtrack, right? So they go there and he's going to infiltrate the KKK, but he does it telephonically, doing his white person voice. And they believe that he's, one of them, probably more southern white person voice, because, southern whiter. So he does that, and they want to join the KKK, but then he gets Kylo Ren. Okay, it's not Kylo Ren, but it's the actor who plays Kylo Ren, but I forget his fucking name. But you know who it is now, because you all saw the Jedi movies. So you know who I'm talking about, right? So I can go look it up. But I don't have to, because I said, what he's known for. So that guy goes to, is going to stand in for him to actually infiltrate the Klan. That's his, white police partner. So it's a little bit of a salt and pepper cop show, but it's a Spike Lee movie, so it's not exactly going to be, some old salt and pepper. What was the first one? I think it was I Spy with Bill Cosby. Ooh, that takes a whole different connotation nowadays. But I was like the first black person to be in a drama series with no question. No, it wasn't totally non-issue, and that's what made it work back in the '60s with Robert Culp. But the idea black cop. Of course, this wasn't black cop, white cop. It was black spy, white spy. And they were pretending to be tennis players when they went around, sort of James Bond type shit. That was actually a really good show. I mean, if you can get over not what we know about Cosby nowadays, it was still a really awesome show. I don't even know where you could see it. I don't think it's on any video or streaming anywhere, but it's like one of the things that my old childhood memories. I really loved that show when I was like 6 years old. Let's see. And there was, but you know what I'm saying. It's not going to be the old, it's not going to be like Riggs and Mortar or whatever the names are. The Mel Gibson and Danny Glover characters. This is going to be a bit different, and obviously, in this case, it's the white guy who's going to be the sidekick. Clearly. So that's a movie that's not a horror movie, except, of course, the horror of racism and the Klan and all of that shit. And in a way, that is real horror in real life. But this is done, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek and wild, and I think that would be highly entertaining. A bit of blaxploitation, neo-blaxploitation, like Tarantino and others have done, taking stuff from the 70s, those ideas, those sorts of movies, bringing them to today and making them relevant. I love that kind of shit, stuff that incorporates those kind of movies and kung fu movies and those sorts of things that were, back in the 70s. When I was a kid, and my mother never wanted me to see that kind of thing, but I went to see it anyway, and it was like it blew my little mind. And a lot of Jason Blum's projects remind me of the stuff I enjoyed when I was a kid and stuff from that time period. The clever, clever, clever horror that he's sort of been propitiating, cultivating, not just, kill, shoot, stab, monster, but there's a cleverness, a subtext for social themes, but also a real cleverness, intelligent horror, whatever you want to call it. And some of his things weren't so intelligent, but you think about what Lee Wano and James Wan have done, and they worked with Blum in the Insidious films. Then they went off on their own, and they continue to cultivate this in other movies and projects they've done. Because they came from somewhere, they had done the Saw movies, and they joined forces with Blum to do the Insidious movies. And you think about some of these other projects, and you think about, for example, Get Out and other movies that Blumhouse produced, but then this sort of genre, it perpetuates because, nothing succeeds like success. And thus, whenever you've got anything successful, immediately people say, oh, this is what the kids want to see. Now let's make more of these. So because of Blumhouse Pictures, other people are starting to make this sort of well-done, intelligent horror. And one of the best ones that has come out recently is a film called Hereditary. That's cocktails fighting back. It's called Hereditary. Hereditary, which is not a Blumhouse picture, but very, very clever, wonderful, intelligent horror filmmaking, which will make you go, wha-ha, fuck, when you're watching it. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm really liking. Horror has gotten better recently. Blum is part of it. I mean, there's other people too. There's a reason Fangoria magazine is coming back from the dead now. And I think it has to do, I hate to say this, because I don't want to credit the Orange Baboon with anything, but whenever there is times of great distress and turmoil and terror and anxiety, fear, that's when horror does well. I mean, the Universal Classic Monsters rose up in the 1930s during the Depression, and then continued during World War I. As soon as that war was over, it sort of vanished. In 1946, there was like one maybe horror movie made the whole freaking year, and most of the studios in Hollywood stopped making them. It's hard to find a good horror movie from 1946. Why? People didn't want to be scared anymore. The war was over, and part of it is getting away from real horror by looking at this stuff, and you feel better. It actually helps you cope. But when you're in a period of peace and happiness and joy, let's see something funny, maybe a musical, maybe something nice. They get away from it. And it started up again after that, in the later 40s, especially after the Cold War really started going. Then people were worried about that kind of shit. Then all of a sudden you got aliens and mutants and all of that kind of lovely stuff, because horror took a different turn, but we had to get some anxiety going to fuel it. In the 60s, there was a lot of unrest, and that's when they had the revival of horror again. And it seems like that's the way it usually works. It always perks up. And I hate to say it, but what's going on right now in the world, and certain lunatics getting in control of the highest offices in the world, not naming names, but you know what I mean, that's when there's an awful lot of anxiety, an awful lot of fear, panic, terror, and all of a sudden you get really good horror movies. And I've looked at the lineup, not just Blumhouse, but across the board. This is a damn good year for horror movies, even if it may be the last year that any of us live, because it's going to be a Holocaust and we'll all be killed. The nuclear Armageddon, which will be the theme of the next American Horror Story, which will start, I think, what? Oh, Friday. I think it is. No. Next week, Wednesday, I believe. Right. What's starting on Friday? something's starting. Oh, Iron Fist is starting on. That's a Marvel program. I knew something was coming up on Netflix, but I pay attention to what telly programs are interesting coming up. But next week, Wednesday, is when American Horror Story comes back with American Horror Story Apocalypse, which is not Blumhouse either, but still there's some connections. So I really like what Blumhouse has done. It's part of a bigger force, I think, a bigger movement within the industry, and I really get excited about it. Really happy to see it happening. And with many studios taking their IPs and going home with them, I'm very glad that Jason Blum is working so closely with Universal, may assure more IPs for Horror Nights in the future. That's also good news for Hollywood. But here in Orlando, we've got 5 original houses, and maybe if we can't get a hold of the better IPs, we may start doing more original houses, maybe only 1 or 2 IPs a year. Who knows? That's just trying to figure out what will happen in the future. It all depends, of course. So, I am quite happy for the house, and the cocktail turned out pretty damn well. So I'm going to finish it off before it gets too dark and spooky out here. Now, oh, and happy Labor Day. And later on, it's a rather dreary Labor Day today, there's this thing called Gordon. Has someone been planting corn again? Come on, fess up. And there's another one right behind Gordon. What's it named? Florence or something. We don't want her coming here next week and messing up our Horror Nights. So don't be planting any corn. Naughty. Anyway. Let's see. I will hopefully continue the history of Halloween Horror Nights 25. And try to wrap that up as quickly as I can. And I have one more house cocktail which may be coming up tomorrow night, and that will be for Scary Tales Deadly Ever After. Then I'll start working on the Zone cocktails, and I'm glad that I waited a little bit for that, because if I tried to make a Zone cocktail based on the Harvest back when they first announced it, it would have been wrong, because we didn't realize until yesterday or so what the Harvest actually is. Now that we see the set pieces going up on the Plaza of the Stars, the Harvest isn't an original scare zone, which sounded too much like what they're doing with Twisted Tradition in Central Park. So what is this about? No, the Harvest is just Altars of Horror Part 2. You know, done in a sort of barn-like setting, but there's no roof on it. It's just got some barn walls on each side that allow for stroller parking during the day, which is what it's mainly being used for. But based on what they've seen with the little things they've got up, they've got props from Halloween 4. They've got props from Trick or Treat. It's going to be an Altars of Horror photo op meet the IP characters scare zone. So probably we're going to have Stranger Things and Poltergeist and Halloween 4 and Trick or Treat and probably the first Purge and Happy Death Day characters hanging out there like the Altars of Horror had characters. Probably not Chucky and Killer Clowns because they have their own scare zones. But you never know, because last year they had some Purgers in that Altars of Horror, even though they had their own scare zone, so that might be too. So there's going to be this IP-driven thing again this year, and so that tells me, aha, so I'm not going to make a mistake on what the cocktail's supposed to look like. And that way it will be the house cocktail that, or rather, the Zone cocktail, which I'll probably do something similar to last year and evoke all the house cocktails that the characters are derived from. But again, I might wait until the event begins to verify exactly which characters are in the zone. Yes, so I will probably start doing the zone cocktails then sometime after the event begins next week, Friday. Yes, very soon. And therefore, but I will get all the zone, and there's only, what, 5 of them. And of course, there may be additional cocktails, depending on what else is going on. Will there be roaming hordes? That's one big, as yet unrevealed secret of Halloween Horror Nights 28. Will there be roaming hordes? Will there be chainsaws? What will be wielding the chainsaws? And where will they be? So, in that case, I shall leave you to it with my usual cocktail video, public service disclaimer. Do not drink any of the cocktails that I create for you here if you are below the age of 21. You must be within the legal age limit for alcoholic beverage consumption in your jurisdiction, which is 21, I believe, for the entire United States. Wasn't always, but currently it is. But if you're watching from some other part of the world where they let small children drink, then be my guest. But not if you're here in the United States. And of course, if you are going to drink, drink responsibly. And do not do anything that would require sharp reflexes and proper thinking processes that might be hazardous and dangerous if you are in any way inebriated or even merely under the influence of such things. Like operating motor cars, or playing lawn darts, or throwing knives at a lovely lady strapped up on a board like Amanda, because you might actually miss her if you're drunk and not get her right in the gizzard where you're aiming. Don't want to miss your chance. Oh, before I leave, that reminds me, wouldn't it be cool if we, at Islands of Adventure, if they had one of the dinos and did like little Harlequin makeup on her, and, and gave her that sort of female evil clown look, and then they could call that dinosaur Chance the Raptor. Okay, now that I made the very bad joke, I'm going to get the hell out of here before you start throwing things at me. Ta-ta!